in his quality of pure existence, had appeared in the womb of Devahuti just to explain the complete state of knowledge known as Sankhya Yoga.
After worshipping the Supreme Lord with that senses and a pure heart for his intended activities of incarnation, Brahma spoke as follows to Kardama and Devahuti.
Lord Brahma said, "My dear son Kardama, since you have completely accepted my instructions without duplicity, showing them proper respect, you have worshipped me properly. Whatever instruction you took from me, you have carried out, and thereby you have honored me."
Sons ought to render service to their father exactly to this extent. One should obey the command of his father or spiritual master with due deference. Yes, sir.
Lord Brahma then praised Kardama Muni's 9 daughters, saying, "All your thin-waisted daughters are certainly very chaste. I am sure they will increase this creation by their own descendants in various ways.
Therefore, today, please give away your daughters to the foremost of the sages, with due regard for the girls' temperaments and likings, and thereby spread your fame all over the universe."
O Kardama, I know that the original Supreme Personality of Godhead has now appeared as an incarnation by his internal energy. He is the bestower of all that is desired by the living entities. And he has now assumed the body of Kapila Muni.
Holistic yoga and the practical application of knowledge from the scriptures. Kapila Muni, who is characterized by his golden hair, his eyes just like lotus petals, and his lotus feet, which bear the marks of lotus flowers, will uproot the deep-rooted desire for work in this material world.
Lord Brahma then told Devahuti, "My dear daughter of Manu, the same Supreme Personality of Godhead who killed the demon Kaitaba is now within your womb. He will cut off all the knots of your ignorance and doubt. Then he will travel all over the world.
Your son will be the head of all the perfected souls. He will be approved by the acharyas, expert in disseminating real knowledge, and among the people he will be celebrated by the name Kapila. As the son of Devahuti, he will increase your fame."
Sri Maitreya said, after thus speaking to Kardamuni and his wife Devati, Lord Brahma, the creator of the universe, who is also known as Hamza, went back to the highest 3 planetary systems on his swan carrier with the 4 Kamaras and Narada.
O Vidura, after the departure of Muni had to be ordered by did over his 9 daughters, as respected to the 9 great sages who created the population of the world.
Kardama Muni handed over his daughter Kala to Marichi and another daughter Anasuya to Atri. He delivered Shraddha to Angira and Havirbhu to Pulastya. He delivered Gati to Polaha, the chaste Kriya to Kratu, Khyati to Brigu, and Arundhati to Vasishta.
He delivered Shanti to Atharva. Because of Shanti, sacrificial ceremonies are well performed. Thus he got the foremost brahmanas married, and he maintained them along with their wives.
Thus married, the sages took leave of Kardama and departed full of joy, each for his own hermitage. O Vidura.
Thank you, everybody. So verse 13 now on the board.
Etavatyeva shushusha Karyapitari putrakai Padham ityanumanyeta Gauravena guro vachaha Etavatyeva shushusha Karyapitari putrakai Padhamityανumanyeta Gauravena guro vachaha. Please chant. Etavatyeva shushusha Karyapitari putrakai Padhamityανumanyeta Gauravena guro vachaha. Etavatyeva shushusha Karyapitari putrakai Padhamityανumanyeta Gauravena guror vachaha. Etavatyeva shushusha Karyapitari putrakai Padhamityανumanyeta Gauravena guror vachaha. Anybody more newer people join more recently Krishna House would like to chant? Etavatyeva shushusha Karyapitari putrakai Padhamityανumanyeta Gauravena guror vachaha. Thank you. Anybody else would like to try? The newer people? Yes, Prabhu, please try. Yes. Etavatyeva shushusha Karyapitari putrakai Padhamityανumanyeta Gauravena guror vachaha. Want to try? Go ahead. Etavatyeva shushusha Karyapitari putrakai Padhamityανumanyeta Gauravena guror vachaha. Excellent. Excellent. Thank you very much for being brave. Okay, so we can do word to word. Etavati, to this extent. Eva, exactly. Shushusha, service. Karya, ought to be rendered. Pitari, to the father. Putrakai, by the sons. Bardham iti, accepting. Yes, sir. Yes, madam. Anumanyeta, he should obey. Gauravena, with due deference. Guru, of the Guru. Vachaha, commands. Translation and purport by Srila Prabhupada. Sons ought to render service to their father exactly to this extent. One should obey the command of his father or spiritual master with the deference saying, yes, sir. Purport. Two words in this verse are very important. One word is pitari, and another word is guru. The son or disciple should accept the words of his spiritual master and father without hesitation. Whatever the father and the spiritual master order should be taken without argument. Yes, there should be no instance in which the disciple or the son says, "This is not correct. I cannot carry it out." When he says that, he's fallen. The father and the spiritual master are on the same platform because the spiritual master is the second father. The higher classes are called Dvija, twice born. Whenever there is a question of birth, there must be a father. The first birth is made possible by the actual father, and the second birth is made possible by the spiritual master. Sometimes the father and the spiritual master may be the same man, and sometimes they're different men. In any case, the order of the father or the order of the spiritual master must be carried out without hesitation with an immediate yes. There should be no argument. That is real service to the father and to the spiritual master. Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur has stated that the order of the spiritual master is the life and soul of the disciples. As a man cannot separate his life from his body, a disciple cannot separate the order of the spiritual master from his life. If a disciple follows the instruction of the spiritual master in that way, he is sure to become perfect. This is confirmed in the Upanishads. The import of Vedic instruction is revealed automatically only to one who has implicit faith in the Supreme Personality of Godhead and in his spiritual master. One may be materially considered an illiterate man, but if he has faith in the spiritual master as well in the Supreme Personality of Godhead, then the meaning of scripture revelation is immediately manifested before him. Wow. Nama Om Shivaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pacharine Shesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshata Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasari Gaur Mancha Kalpata Vivasya Kripasya Gaur Chakatita Nampa. So, is there room for critical thinking? Is there any room for thoughts? Here we see that the aspect of obedience is so emphasized, even to the extent that if a disciple or a son says, "This is not correct, I cannot carry it out," and the Prabhupada said, when he says that, he is fallen. So is there any room for personal thinking, critical thinking, having your own mind, having your own thoughts in a relationship between a father and a son, or a spiritual master and a disciple? Yes. Back there, and then yourself. Yes, Prabhu, back there.
There should be harmony between the two, so it's not that one completely subjugates one's personality and will, but this is speaking of one who actually has faith in the spiritual master and the personality of Godhead, which presupposes that there's something that has been received prior to this.
Okay, appreciate the comment.
Faith comes from the process of hearing and observing the spiritual master. And so at a certain point, when one actually surrenders to the spiritual master, it's because they have sufficient information already.
Okay, thank you. Yes, Prabhu.
It's important to carry out instructions with efficiency and instructions may be like more broad in the details you figure out yourself. Yeah, that's what I was thinking. So there is room for the disciples' own critical thinking.
Okay.
Like Prabhupada's guru just told him to write in English and preach to English people, Americans, and he figured out the rest.
So you're saying to take the essence of the spiritual, what the spiritual master is saying, or here even says Father. So you take the essence and you have room for critical thinking in how to do it, but not necessarily the order is given. You follow it, but you have to follow it. You're allowed to follow in your own way. Kind of like that.
Yeah, the wording your own way is not my favorite because it could be sounds a little more whimsical.
Yeah, okay,
but,
okay, okay. I understand. Thank you, appreciate that. Yes, Nitai Goranga. Nitai Goranga.
What Nate said reminded me that Prabhupada had once told Viraj Swami that a spiritual master's instruction could be suspended, like for temporarily suspended, but never neglected. He said that he gave his own example that his spiritual master had told him to like preach in the Western world, and he tried for many years. He couldn't do it. He had family, but it was always there in the back of the mind that I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna get to it. So in that way, like even if you're not able to do it now, we should like keep it in our heart that we'll do it when we're capable of doing it. And what Rasika Prabhu just said, maybe before we accept a spiritual master, we do that like investigation, then we are like we have that open questioning to actually have faith to see that if this is the person I can trust with. But then we cannot choose our own father, like we don't have the capacity to do that like before we come.
We chose our father.
Yeah, but we can't really like question him like, oh, do I want to be your son or not? But at least with a spiritual master we can find that out. So and once we have surrendered, maybe then at least what it seems like, then there's less room for questioning.
So what you're saying, like Srila Prabhupada said, the disciple examines the guru and the guru examines the disciple. And at that stage, maybe you're not following the instructions because you're just finding, but once you have accepted, then you need to follow. Then is there room for critical thinking after that? Then it's your name, Prabhu? Nate. So like Nate was saying that the instruction is given, you follow the instruction, but you may, as an individual, you may have your own individuality, how you may be expressing it. Again, always under the principles or rules and regulations, what are being given by the spiritual master, but there is room for individuality. Yes, Advaita Prabhu. Oh, sorry. Yeah, go ahead.
What was the question?
It's that's intelligent question because you want to make sure that you respond is there room for critical thinking when we are being told that you have to say yes, sir, when your father or your son when your father and your guru is asking you to do something, you follow it and you don't question that. So is there room for critical thinking?
I would say yes, and I would say it's necessary because the disciple has to. If the disciple doesn't express themselves or express that desire to the spiritual master, then it's kind of hard to see where you are at. Actually, the spiritual master won't be able to see where the disciple is at spiritually. Like, yeah.
Very, very good point. Your name?
Bruce.
Bruce. This just made me think about one particular instance in the Bhagavatam. The specific thing that you mentioned about that the spiritual master may not know where you're at if you don't, let's say, if you have difficulty and you can't express, but by expressing it, One example is where the disciple did not accept what the spiritual master said. Anybody can? Dhruva, yes. Thank you, Prabhu. Dhruva. And that was a situation when Dhruva was a little boy, 5-year-old, and when he was asked, he wanted to perform this austerity of so that perform austerity so that he could sit on the throne of his father, because he wasn't allowed to do so by his stepmother. So he was going to go and perform austerities in the forest. And so Narad Muni, the spiritual master, he came and he said, you're just 5-year-old. What are you doing going to the forest? It's time for you to play. 5-year-old, what do? They play, yeah? So what are you doing? Forget about that. Just go and play. Don't take things seriously. But Dhruva was like, no, I am hurt. I'm sorry. I'm really sorry. I know what you're saying is right, but I'm sorry, I can't follow those. I can't follow your instructions. I have to do what I have to do. So he was able to express himself to his spiritual master, and then Narad Muni blessed him. And so in that case, yes, he didn't. So was he fallen? Prabhupada says, when he says that he's fallen, and he says, this is not correct, I cannot carry it out. Any comments? Rasika Prabhu has a comment on that.
He wasn't necessarily saying that Narada Muni was incorrect. He acknowledged what you're saying is true, but I'm incapable of doing it. And actually that pleased Narada.
Yes.
And the other thing is that the relationship between spiritual master and disciple is not one of subjugation, but one of loving exchange. And
yes,
it's already presupposes that the disciple has approached the spiritual master and has committed himself to follow his instructions, trusting intelligently on the basis of experience and hearing and so forth, that the spiritual master is someone that is worthy to be followed. The disciple wants to follow that person.
Yes, very, very important point. Actually, just in these past time, when I came here, I remembered something. Just in this past time earlier on, between Devahuti, when Devahuti got married to Kardamuni, it describes in chapter 23rd, which is one before, there is a verse, Vrisham Bhenatma Shochena Goravena Damena Cha. It describes that Devahuti served her husband with Goravena and Vrishambhena. And what's interesting, that here the word is given Goravena in this verse today with due deference. So that's how a disciple should serve. And in that earlier chapter, verse number 2, it gives another adjective, Vrishambhena. And Vrishambhena means with intimacy. So what Rasika Prabhu was talking about is not subjugation. It's very important to understand it's not subjugation. It's respect and intimacy. When you have a relationship with somebody intimate, what does that make you think? You have an intimate relationship with somebody. What words come to your mind? Closeness. Yeah. Rasa. Any other word?
Honesty.
Honesty. Honesty. Understanding. Wow. Confidential. Wow, coming up with some good words here. You ladies not coming out with you don't know intimacy? Come on. Conversation. Yeah. Transparency. Yes. So this is the relationship with the spiritual master and the disciple. Sometimes, maybe initially, well, we're talking about when there used to be arranged marriages. When they used to be arranged marriages, basically there wouldn't be naturally intimacy, or even in not arranged marriages, but let's say even in love marriages, initially you're just getting to know somebody. So, but especially in arranged marriages, there is some respect, there's some distance, you don't know the person, you're getting to know the person, you're figuring things out, so it's not intimate. But as time goes by, there is intimate relationship where each person can talk to each other about one's how they're actually feeling comfortable, because you're vulnerable initially, and then you're feeling more confident, then you can tell your spouse anything you want to. That that happens after some time. But the fact is, that is what a relationship with a spiritual master, always Gauravena, always respect. That aspect is never gone. Gauravena. And then Vishrambena, that happens in time. And you see the relationship, sometimes you see Srila Prabhupada and his disciples. I was thinking about Tamal Krishna Maharaj. You see you read the conversations with Tamal Krishna Maharaj and Srila Prabhupada. Very intimate relationship. There could be expressions like doubts, or even saying that he didn't agree with Srila Prabhupada. Like such a relationship there was a confident relationship, and Srila Prabhupada expected him to do so much, and he did so much. And so so many disciples like that we see that Srila Prabhupada had that kind of relationship. It was Gauravena and Vishrambena, both those things. So thank you very much for all of you for your input as far as can we have a critical thinking. Now, having understood what a relationship with the disciple and spiritual master should be, I wanted to kind of go a little bit about this kind of obedience that is been given. Again, understanding all what you have expressed, keeping that in mind, and knowing that that is the relationship between a guru and a disciple. Let's think about why this obedience is given such importance. What benefit can one get by being obedient? So here, Lord Brahma is saying to his son. So we're talking about a father and son relationship. I see that nobody talked about father and son. Everybody concentrated on guru and disciple. Because, my father is not a devotee, so I shouldn't be listening to him. So we're just going to concentrate on disciple and guru. Yeah, I noticed nobody spoke on that. I wonder why. Anyway, so here it is. Lord Brahma is the father, Kardama Muni is the son. And so he's saying sons ought to render service to their father exactly to this extent, by saying, yes, sir. Now, if you remember what exactly happened a few chapters before, where Lord Brahma told Kardama Muni that go and perform austerities so that you can increase the population. Lord Brahma's service was to populate the universe. So he asked his sons to do that. So Kardama Muni was one of them. And Kardama Muni was given that instruction, and Kardama Muni practiced that for 10,000 years so that he could get married and have children. Pretty amazing, huh? So to populate, to get married, he performed austerity for 10,000 years. And what did he get in return? Kardama Muni, who was so obedient to his father, he got a suitable wife with whom he was able to perform so much seva. And then finally, what he gets is a son who is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So this is one of the things that we see that Kardama Muni receives. He gets the Supreme Personality of Godhead as his son. Wow, pretty good. Pretty good thing. What do you say, Adisham Prabhu? But you see that Lord Brahma, this is Lord Brahma's son. Even Lord Brahma's grandson, Priyavrata. Priyavrata, yeah, Swambhuva Manu, that's right. Kardama Muni's son is Swambhuva Manu. Lord Brahma's son is Swambhuva Manu, and Swambhuva Manu's son is Priyavrata. Now, it's interesting in that case. Now, Priyavrata, who is Lord Brahma's son, he got preached by our celestial preacher, Narada Muni. And so he wanted to remain a brahmachari. However, Lord Brahma wanted to populate. That's his service that is given by his spiritual father, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And Priyavrata didn't want to do that, really. And so, but Lord Brahma went and asked Priyavrata to get married. Guess what he did? Did he say yes? Or did he say no? He really didn't want to get married. He just got preached by this eternal brahmachari, Narada Muni, and Narada Muni converts everybody into brahmacharis. But Lord Brahma is thinking, well, this is my service. I need people to do this. So what does Priyavrata do? He detaches himself from this idea. Yes. So he does get married. Now, all you brahmacharis who are planning to remain brahmacharis, don't worry, nobody's going to tell you to do though. But in his case, he was asked, and he did. Did he lose anything by doing so, Advaita Prabhu?
You have succession.
Good answer. Very good answer. Appreciate that. Yes. Thank you. Yes. So no, he didn't lose anything. But yes, we have an instance where he didn't want to do it, but he did carry out, and he said, yes, sir. Now, interesting. It's very important, like all of you were saying about the spiritual master and disciple. Lord Brahma, he asked Kardama Muni, he asked Priyavrata to help him in his service to his father. But Lord Brahma was a person like, in other words, he commanded that respect because he himself did exactly what he expected from his sons and grandsons. It describes that, let me read this to you. This is Shukdev Goswami telling about Lord Brahma. And he tells Maharaj Parikshit, he said, O king, the personality of Godhead, being very much pleased with Lord Brahma because of his non-deceptive penance. Same kind of word was used in a previous verse we did verse number 13, but verse number 12 says, Lord Brahma said, my dear son Kardama, since you have completely accepted my instructions without duplicity, showing them proper respect, you have worshipped me properly. So this is what Sukadeva Goswami is saying about Lord Brahma, that being very much pleased with Lord Brahma because of his non-deceptive penance in Bhakti Yoga, presented his eternal and transcendental form before Brahma. So Lord Brahma, because of hearing in a non-deceptive way in a respectful way to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Lord Krishna, he manifested his transcendental form before Lord Brahma. And that is the objective goal for purifying the conditioned soul. This is Shukdev Goswami writing. And so we see that Lord Brahma, perfect father, a perfect disciple. And for a perfect father and a son and a disciple, he is certainly qualified to ask his dependents to obey his request. And we know with Lord Brahma, they're the 4 Kumars, they remain brahmachari. So it's not like, again, it's the qualification of the spiritual master. It's not subjugation, very nicely put. It's Gauravena and Vishrambhena. Now, these kinds, again, talking about obedience, we see that this is not only in spiritual circles or in our Vedic scriptures talk about following the father's instructions or the spiritual master's instructions or the superior's instruction. Don't mistake by thinking that it is just the one spiritual master or the one father. No, the qualified authorities, Prabhupada, that's how he trained, that the temple president, you follow his instructions or her instructions because they're appointed by me. They're representing me. And so it's so important to follow the authorities. But this kind of culture is not only that is described in our Vedic scriptures. I'm married to a person who went to military school. When I saw that this 2 words, yes, sir, I thought about his training because it's told me about what used to happen in the military schools. I'm going to read something in the last few minutes that I have about obedience and what it is required in the military school. I had put a couple of places. I'm not too sure exactly who wrote this, but at least for one of them, it says Chip Conley or whatever. Anyway, in the early 80s, while being indoctrinated into military culture, I was trained to use 4 basic responses to reply to questions brought forth by any commanding officer or upperclassmen, basically in the senior, somebody who's senior to you. Even it was just like 1 year senior to you or upperclassmen, yeah? Okay. Okay, what were the 4 things? Regardless of how bad or what the cause or circumstance, a new military recruit had only 4 ways to respond to a commanding officer's inquiries or orders, which included the phrases, yes, sir, no, sir, no excuse, sir, sir, I do not understand. Okay, I'm just giving you some ideas, Shruti Sagar. I see that big, broad smile on your face. Okay. In a nutshell, these 4 basic responses were the building blocks of taking responsibility for your actions or the actions of your team, because there was absolutely no excuse for failure. Imagine, if you will, being in a situation in which your team failed to execute a mission properly, not because of any fault of your own, but because your other team members could not carry their own weight. Yet, any reply in explaining your shortcomings to your commanding officer other than no excuse, sir, was deemed wrong and strongly inappropriate. What does this obedience do when you follow when you're trained in such a way? And I noticed nobody talked about father. The fact is that training has to be from young. When you have good training from young, then you bring those same principles in your spiritual life. I've just thought about Gopal Krishna Maharaj. His father was actually, what was he, in the Navy? He was a commander. And you could see that Gopal Krishna Maharaj probably had the same training that he brought when he came to the spiritual life in the spiritual circles, and he followed Srila Prabhupada's instructions. Really amazing. Now, I'm talking about what this person writes. Military service teaches and cultivates leadership skills. Individuals learn to, again, this is about being obedient and what that does to a person, what it can do. Again, not that we leave our intelligence away, but still the aspect of following instructions and following authorities. You take responsibility for self and actions, make sound and timely decisions, you set an example, you understand and accomplish assigned tasks, be dependable, cultivate abilities to meet a variety of challenges, be disciplined. These are some of the things that one cultivates as one learns to become obedient. Obedience is something, it's a quality that it's very much undermined nowadays. So don't be afraid to be obedient. Again, it doesn't mean that you lose your intelligence but yet obedience has a very valuable, it's a very valuable quality to cultivate. Then it says military service can result in personal growth and positive emotional experience such as enhanced maturity, self-improvement, knowing oneself better, strengthening of resiliency, positive transformations, following trauma or situations of extreme stress, improved coping skills, and pride, good pride. For us, it means we're proud of being a servant of the servant of the servant, that kind of pride. And then it creates deep friendships, interpersonal maturation, working well in teams, and understanding the importance of cooperation. Very important part for us as devotees, looking out for the welfare of the team. So aren't these something that we all want to kind of keep that in the forefront of our mind and try to learn this aspect of obedience? Yes, very important. And say, yes, sir. Yes, Adi Shampuru. Yes, sir.
As you were speaking, I was reflecting on, I think I have an opportunity to go and serve my spiritual master almost every year. And what happens is I travel with him alone. So I have to cook, I have to clean, I have to drive him. And quite a few years my mind was really stubborn. And I would do something which I thought was pretty logical and, it made sense. And my Guru Maharaj would always correct me, and I would always try to explain why I did that. And he would always chastise me. Like, you always give excuses. You always give excuses. And I was like, well, but it made sense. It's very difficult for me. And then I spoke to Kalakant Prabhu about this, and he made a very, very good point. And he makes it in terms of many relationships. He says, relationships come first. And he said, if you just follow your spiritual master tells you, eventually after yes sir, yes sir, yes sir, he will trust you. He may even say, you do as you think is best. But it will develop the trust. And and eventually, there was one time I was at the gas station with Guru Maharaj, and I forgot what I did, but I thought about it really tediously, why I would do it specifically for Maharaj. And he didn't like it. He said, why did you do that? And I just turned to him and I said, Maharaj, no excuses. He smiled. It was the biggest smile I've ever seen.
Wow.
So in critical thinking, we also have to imply critical intelligence. So yes, sir, basically means in a moment I say yes, sir. And if down the road, if I want to discuss it, I can bring it up later and ask Guru Maharaj. But in a moment, I say yes, sir. That developed trust. We can apply it to spiritual master relationship and a father.
Yes.
So that yes, sir, means respect and a trust, and it's a building blocks.
Thank you, Adi Prabhu. You just said it so beautifully by that example. Very, very good. Yes, yes, sir. It reminds me of one thing. The one time Giriraj Maharaj was staying at our house and he stayed twice. Did he stay? Maharaj stayed twice at our place? Yeah. Anyway, so one time when Giriraj Maharaj stayed, that was the first time. So Maharaj had a particular diet. So he told me to take one pear, cut it up, peel it, cut it, and put this much raisins and water and whatever. He told me exactly how to do it. So I did that the first day. The second day, the pear I had was much smaller. So I thought, this is so small, so maybe I'll do two. So I peeled it, cut it, did everything, just had two pears. And so when I was serving him, and he saw that I had still so much left in the pot, so he said to me, so this is one pear? I said, no, Marge. He said, I told you to do one pear. I'm like, then I said to him, I said, Marge, I guess I'm not as humble as I thought I would be. Then he started laughing. I mean, I said in my way, joking way, Marge, I guess I'm not that humble, So he laughed, But the thing is that point being, I think I know better, It's just, I think I know better. It's one, but no, this one are too small, so maybe I do two, But yeah. Yes, sir. Yes, Advaita Prabhu. Yes, Prabhu.
Thank you so much for your class. It was very stimulating. But I just had a thought, and not to open another can of worms, but in regards to obedience, it seems like it naturally follows when the love is there, and that in both relationship with parent to a child, and also a spiritual master to a disciple, and also military men. If there's no love for the country that they have in their heart, it will be very difficult to follow all the prompts and the four responses that they have at their disposal. So yeah, love is kind of a requirement for that obedience to even make sense. Why would you if you don't feel reciprocity?
Well, Advaita Prabhu, I'll ask you a question. Does obedience come first or does love come first?
Case of a child, we see that they receive a lot of love and being nourished from the early on. So it creates a fertile ground for them to respond and hopefully feel respect, Gauravena, as they grow up for all the love that they've received. And naturally they'll be obedient. Of course, children rebel too. There's a rebellion and disobedience. But why is that? Because that love is severed, right? They don't feel that anymore. They want to figure out, for whatever reason, there's a breakdown in fabric of familiar values.
That's just part of becoming an adult.
Not always the case, but it can happen.
Yeah. So with children, you're saying there's love first and then obedience. And what about spiritual master and disciple?
In any other case, why would the student, why everybody surrender to Prabhupada? Because they felt his love, deep love that they never felt before.
Thank you. Yes.
I tend to disagree.
Mhm.
I think love takes time, so it cannot just unless it's like a blood bond, a child to their parents, or like in the case of a country, right, where it's people of one nation, maybe love manifests first. But in all other cases, um, I see it like people are like, okay, let me obey, see what happens, and then I'll go from there. And then if there's a mutual vibe or mutual respect, then love has the potential to blossom. But if not, then their love will not develop and obedience will stop. So I think obedience is like a leap of faith that could develop into love. And and as to what Advaita Prabhu was saying, the question of like, can a military man really serve his country well if he does not love his country? I mean, we're seeing that now. Like in the United States, there's like a drop off in recruitment numbers. And yeah, that's in the back of my mind as well, because like as I develop more into Krishna consciousness, there's more of this idea of we are not the body, do not identify with the labels that the external world has conditioned us with, but that fundamentally could destroy the very idea of the need for a military. Because then if people are like, okay, I'm not American, I'm not British, I'm not Indian, I'm just a vessel through which Krishna joys, doesn't seem like there would be much need for a military.
Any comment over here like the subject? A true lawyer. Yes, go in the room.
I was thinking that there's also like in between, there's love and then there's full obedience. But sometimes it's just observing the person's character. You know, like you just see them, oh, do they seem trustworthy? You know, it doesn't like you don't have to love them, but also you don't have to respect them initially. I mean, to be obedient to them initially, but you can just observe and speak to them and see, you know, are they worthy of maybe following the instruction, or do they seem a little sketchy, you know? So at least that's what came to my mind is there's also an in between where the intelligence kicks in before the love and before the obedience. That's how my mind.
Well, there's certainly what's your name? Ari. Okay. Like Ari was saying, there's certainly we have what is that word? Adav Shraddha. So there's a little faith. Same thing, little obedience maybe have to be there a little bit, or a little bit of checking out. But I in my mind, I think it goes like this. You have a little obedience or a little faith, and then maybe in response of you being obedient, there's love. And then you see that love, and then maybe more obedience and more love and more, and it kind of goes like that. Yes. Somebody else had a hand here? Yes, Rasika Prabhu. Oh, time. Last.
Just real quick.
Yes.
So usually we're approaching a spiritual master because we're trying to uncover that place within us that's under our conditioning where our will and the will of the Lord are in perfect harmony, spiritual harmony. And so the spiritual master is trying to train us. So, for instance, I said one pair, right? That may seem like maybe petty to one person's mind, but the spiritual master is trying to get us to awaken that place within us where our will is harmonized with the Lord's will, which brings great peace and satisfaction and develops our relationship with Krishna in a way that we couldn't get any other way. And so that develops a deep respect and love because we see the fruit of the relationship in our relationship with the Lord.
Yes. Thank you. Thank you very much, Prabhu. Thank you for your participation. Hare Krishna. Shrimad Bhagavatam ki jai.